The Phillips 66 Big 12 Women's Tournament is underway this week, but the NCAA tournament just around the corner. Joining us right now to share his insights on how seeding looks for the Big 12, ESPN women's bracketologist Charlie Creme. Charlie, I know the ball's bouncing all over the place. Thank you so much. We know you're busy this time of year.
Oh, yes, very busy, but I could talk about this stuff with anybody all day long. Sometimes I just talk to strangers about it on the street. That's that much fun.
Well, let's go. We got a familiar face here, no strangers. We're going to start with your latest projections. Where do you have Big 12 teams standing right now heading into the big dance?
Well, let's see. I've got TCU as a 3 seed, Kansas State as a 4. So I have those two hosting first and second round games right now. Baylor is a 5, West Virginia is a 6, Utah and Oklahoma State as 7s, and Iowa State as a 10. That's the 7 teams we're looking at in the field right now. I have Arizona as my second team in the next 4 out. So the Wildcats still in the mix, certainly for a bit as well. Charlie,
you mentioned TCU. A lot of folks talking about the Horned Frogs. They've been at the top of the Big 12 standings all season long. Some have them as a favorite in this week's conference tournament. Did they have an argument for a 2 seed in the Big Dance?
I think they do if they get to the finals and LSU in the SEC does not get to the semifinals or loses badly in the semifinals, I think there's a pretty good argument. If TCU wins the whole thing and LSU gets to the semifinals but loses there, I think TCU would also have an argument. So it's a win as much as you can and kind of watch the scoreboard situation, specifically LSU for the Horned Frogs.
Now, you have Iowa State as one of the last 4 byes. Are they safe, or is there more work for them to be done?
I think they're safe. I think that win over Kansas State at the end of the regular season was enough to make Iowa State safe. The bubble this year really, really thin. There's not a lot of teams. I think, in fact, I think we're talking about Arizona is maybe the last team that can still make a move into the field. And they're my second team in the next 4 out, talking realistically here. So I think Iowa State has some padding based on that. Another win would certainly help. To keep them in a bye situation. They still, I think, would want to avoid the first 4. If they do lose right away in the Big 12 tournament, I could still see them having to play that extra game in the NCAA tournament, starting a couple days earlier than everybody else.
You know, I didn't get an A in geography, so I'm going to turn this over to you. A lot of folks in Big 12 country are curious as to where some of these top-ranked teams or higher-seeded teams could end up geographically. Any insight there on where some teams like Baylor, TCU, we've talked about Iowa State, where they could end up playing?
Well, it really is sort of a roll of the dice with where the committee ends up placing those top 4 seeds. So obviously if Kansas State and TCU end up in the top 16, they're going to be hosting those first and second round games. And then it's because they're not one of the top 2 seeds, it's really just a matter of where those first 2 lines of teams goes regionally. So you got Spokane, you got Birmingham as the 2 regions. Really, either team could go in either place. I think Baylor is a 5 seed. They're gonna end up with a 4 seed. So they could end up in, say, Chapel Hill. They won't end up in Manhattan playing Kansas State for sure, but they could end up in a place like Chapel Hill, Oxford, Mississippi, playing in the Ole Miss sub-regional. Perhaps Ohio State and Columbus, something like that.
All right, Charlie Creme, I know you're busy. We really appreciate you taking the time to drop some knowledge on us today. Best of luck. I know you got plenty of work ahead.
There's lots of work to do, lots of games still to watch. We love it, though.
We sure do. All right, man. Appreciate you, Charlie.